Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another exciting community podcast webcast. Today's webinar is really cool. I think this is one that we haven't had in a while. This is a getting started with Apache Cassandra. We're back to basics on a lot of stuff today. Today we're going to be hearing from Rebecca Mills. She's a junior evangelist here at Datastax, and she's been doing this talk or something like it for a while now. So she's interested in how getting Cassandra approachable to new users, and part of that experience, she has a degree in biochemistry, which I think is really cool. But been working on her computer science degree, been learning a lot about Cassandra along the way, and it's funny, in her bio she says she goes on a lot about genome analysis, which is kind of true. But yeah, we've talked actually how we do that with Cassandra, so maybe that's another webinar coming up. So I'm going to let her take it, and at the end, we're going to have a few questions. So go ahead, Rebecca, take it away.
Thanks, Patrick. Hi, I'm Rebecca Mills. I'm a junior evangelist with Datastax. Follow me on Twitter. I'm Rebecca Mills with AdaE. Part of my job is to help make Cassandra more approachable for everyone. A lot of people claim that other databases are faster and easier to get up and running with than Cassandra. So I consider it my mission to help guide people through the challenges of getting started. So maybe you don't have loads of free time to spend on learning how to use a new database. Sometimes it can be hard navigating your way through tangly docs. So when you really just want a quick taste of what it's like to use a database, today I'm going to give you a little brief overview of what it takes. We'll say the bare minimum steps to get up and running with Cassandra. And I'm not saying you're going to have your own 100-node cluster going by the end of all this, but at least you'll have a concept of what it's like. So sit back, relax, and let's go. As a junior evangelist, I try to create awareness for open source Cassandra. I develop Cassandra-themed content like blog posts, video tutorials, webinars. I also have my own Twitter account. Part of my job is also to step into the shoes of the quote-unquote newbie to try to determine what kind of problems people just being introduced to Cassandra might encounter, which may not be obvious to an expert like Patrick. So if you haven't already, you should head over to Planet Cassandra and go to the download section. Here you can choose your operating system and the type of DSC download that you want. On the download page, there's also guides on how to install DSC once you have it. So let's get going. But before you can fire up your instance, there are a few things that you need to tinker with. Otherwise, Cassandra may not work properly, or it may not even set up at all. So if we're going to get a cluster going, this looks to be a little bit longer, as we would have to tell the nodes how to share information and where they are within the topology, stuff like that. But for now, we're just worried about our single instance. So two things that we are concerned about checking is our version of Java and making sure we have access to our data files when they get saved. Firstly, you need to make sure that you have the latest version of Java, which is JDK7, installed in all your nodes. And you're going to want to change the location of your data commit logs and save caches. If you leave them as default, you're going to have to run Cassandra as root in order for it to start, which of course isn't ideal. Probably the easiest way to deal with this problem is to set the save location in your home directory. The location for saves is configured in this cassandra.yaml file in the conf directory. Instead of using the default directory paths, we'll change them all to use our home directory. This will guarantee that we have the correct permissions. We're going to run through this list here now of 5 things that you should be able to do very quickly when you start up a Cassandra instance. So assuming you downloaded the tarball, you should go to the install location and run Cassandra from the bin directory. Once we get our instance started, we can run CQL shell. CQL is Cassandra query language, and syntactically it's pretty similar to SQL, so it shouldn't be too difficult if you have a relational database background. When you run CQL shell, you'll get a prompt, and then you can start communicating with your database using CQL. So key space holds our data in Cassandra. They have tables which are made up of rows and columns. A row represents a single data entry. Here I am showing the creation of a key space in CQL, and never mind the class and replication factor component for now, because that's outside the scope of this webinar, but you can look that up on your own if you'd like. And then I create a users table within that key space, where I assign the columns a name and a data type. Next, we populate our rows in our table using the insert command. If I ran these 3 insert commands, I would inject 3 rows of data, of user information, into the users table I made. If we wanted to query our database, a select star from users would return all the rows from the table. Using a where clause and a specific last name, which we set to be our primary key earlier when we created the table, it would return the users associated with that last name. And there could be more than one, keep in mind, if 2 different people have the same last name. The primary key, which is also the partition key in this case, refers to the partition on disk where the data is located. These are examples of what an update and delete look like in CQL. As you can see, it's pretty familiar looking syntax, and it's just that simple. So 2 really great tools you can use with Cassandra are OpsCenter and DevCenter. DevCenter is a free tool you can download on the Datastax website. It's a really cool alternative to CQL shell if you prefer a GUI. You can connect to a local server or remote cluster. So this is what DevCenter looks like. You can type most of the same commands in here as you would in CQL shell. There are a couple commands that don't work, but most of them do. It has almost the same functionality and has a nice visual interface. So in the connection center, which is in DevCenter, you can save a new connection if you intend to use it frequently instead of reconnecting to it each time that you use it. So here I'm connecting to an instance on my local machine, localhost. And I'm running the same commands as I showed you earlier in CQL, in CQL syntax. And I'm creating the demo key space again, this time in DevCenter, using DevCenter. Here I'm creating the same users table. Notice the nice syntax highlighting. Also notice the schema window in the upper right corner shows our key spaces, and if you click on the triangle next to demo, you can see the table in there as well. And here we are inserting the rows in the database, just same as before. So OpsCenter. OpsCenter is here to help you manage a Cassandra cluster, because managing a lot of machines all at once can be a challenge sometimes. It's easy to make cluster-wise configurations of OpsCenter instead of digging through configuration files on the command line, going through multiple machines. It's a real pain. You can also diagnose problems with your cluster using OpsCenter. You can set up graphs to track write latency, read latency, hint of handoffs, all sorts of things. And these might give you a good indication of where the source of the problem is in your cluster. So what about multi-data center? Of course, OpsCenter does multi-data center because it's Cassandra. So you could also create a Cassandra instance or cluster in the cloud using the AWS ANI. You spin these up through OpsCenter. In the new cluster section, select the cloud option, which only appears if you're running OpsCenter on an EC2 instance. Adding a clustering can be done from a single image and configuration file. You give Datastax credentials sent to you by email, as well as the credentials of each node, the IP address and the credentials. Use your own AWS credentials to create a cluster and configure things like security groups on the fly. So Datastax has drivers for Java, Python, C#, and C++. But there are also a lot of other open source drivers available too. Check out the client driver sections of Planet Cassandra, and you'll probably find one in the language you're looking for. Connecting to your cluster using Java is really easy. First, create a cluster object, and then use the builder method to connect to the cluster. That's it. It's really that easy. So here's a simple program that will connect to your database. It's just a few lines of code, and you're ready to insert and select data from Cassandra. And here's the same situation in Python. I really wish I had more to say about this, but essentially it's the same. It's very simple. Create a cluster object and use the connect method. That's it. And once you have a session, you can use the execute method to run SQL commands. So if you're looking for great resources on Apache Cassandra, you should definitely check out Planet Cassandra.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Christian. If you could just speak a little more clearly into the microphone, that would be great. We're losing you just a little bit.
Okay. So if you're looking for great resources on Apache Cassandra, you should definitely check out Planet Cassandra. You'll find everything you need there: webinars, blog posts, use cases, tutorials. And while you're there, check out the Try Cassandra section, which I created content for. Try Cassandra has quick 10-minute tutorials for developers, administrators, and some walkthrough videos that I made to help you guys out. So thank you guys. I guess it's question time now, so if you have anything to ask, go ahead.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions in here. So the first one that I have for you is, so back when you were creating the key space, the example page you had there for key spaces, Alex asked, is that, in Cassandra parlance, is that equivalent to a schema in, say, a relational database?
Yes, it's considered to be the equivalent to a schema.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, right, it stores tables, I guess. We're using Oracle. It's like schema stores tables, key space stores tables, sure. I guess that's pretty similar. Good. So on Try Cassandra, we have a virtual machine there. Now, is that something that I should download, or is that needed? I mean, we walked through the steps here, but why would I want to use the virtual machine versus, say, just downloading Cassandra?
Well, it's a lot. It takes longer to download and install if you really want to get just a quick taste of CQL and the file system. It might be actually a good first step instead of just going through all the hassle of downloading and installing. Just go check out the OVA first. And if you find that interesting and helpful, then go and get a the full version of Cassandra. It's probably a good idea after.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. We're getting some driver questions in here, of course. The drivers because that was the last thing, and it was always interesting. So the Java driver 2.0 for connecting to CQL SH 4.0. Now, I'm not sure if the question should be just using Cassandra. Well, I think the question is a little tough here because so connecting a driver, well, CQLSH comes out with Cassandra 2.0. So connecting Java driver 2.0 to Cassandra 2.0?
Yeah, you use it with 2.0, Cassandra 2.0.
Right.
Right.
So if we look at your slide, I think that's probably where I got that, was that when you connect to a 2.0 cluster, it's CQLSH 4.0, which is different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just trying to parse the question there. So yeah, so the answer is yes. You can connect Java driver 2.0 to 2.0. Right. Very good. So DevCenter, someone must have seen that, looks a lot like Eclipse, and is asking, Marcine asks, is that available as an Eclipse plugin?
No, it's not available as an Eclipse plugin.
Right. Yeah, that's even though although I can tell you, I know this. I know it's coming. This is on the DevCenter roadmap, and it is definitely something that gets asked a lot. So I think that'd be also great.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That'd be great for new users, especially if you're already in Eclipse anyway. Mark asks, can you comment on the distinctions of Cassandra versus the relational database? Okay, so we're going to have a whole nother half hour. You know, Mark, what I'm going to do is I'm going to defer that to, I have a webinar on this topic exactly. I hate to pass you off, but take a look at my webinar that I did. It's on YouTube. The data model is dead, long live the data model. It is exactly what you're asking for, and I think it's probably a more succinct answer. It's not a quick answer for sure. Don't want to hand you off for it just like that, but I don't think that's an easy one to answer. So Jay asks, is there a supported driver for Rails?
Hold on, Patrick.
So that'd be Ruby on Rails. So,
Christian?
Yes, hold on just one second. Just for everyone on the call today, the presentation that Patrick just referenced and all of our previous webinars can be found on Planet Cassandra, the Cassandra community website. And the one that Patrick just referenced, the data model is dead, long live the data model, one of our very popular webinars. So you can find that on planetcassandra.org.
All right, so apparently I'm not able to be heard.
Oh, can you hear Christian? No.
I heard Christian, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Boy, this internet's not very reliable. You need a database that can stand up to all the shenanigans that the internet will throw at you. You have a good one? So, Christian, can you hear us okay? I know we're having problems with our internet here.
I can hear you. Okay is a relative term, I think. Sometimes
right.
I can hear you great, other times less so. So just, yeah, just be mindful to speak up as much as you can.
Right, okay. Well, we were talking about Ruby on Rails, which means, which is probably a better question to you, Rebecca. Is there a Ruby driver for Cassandra?
Yeah, there's several Ruby drivers. You can check out the drivers page, and there should be a list. Some of them are a bit dated, but yeah, there's a list of Ruby drivers in the client driver section of Planet Cassandra.
I believe the one I hear a lot of people talk about is CQL RB, which is pretty current. As a matter of fact, I just was talking to somebody yesterday about that. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
That would be a good one to check out. Okay, so a little more internal questions from Sujit. Can you throw some light on Cassandra's data storage formats? Which I think is probably more of like, how does it, can you follow up with this? Are you asking like, how does it store data on disk? Sorry, I didn't want to have to ask that before. I just want to make sure we answer your questions. I'll move on to the next one until you can. So Vicky asks, can we run SQL queries on Cassandra?
No, you can't run SQL queries. You need to use SQL.
I mean, I can understand why the question is like that because it's
Yeah, a lot, Patrick.
Oh, great. Because CQL looks a lot like SQL.
Yeah, you might think you could, because it looks so similar that you would work, but no.
What's the main difference? I mean, what's the big thing you don't get in CQL?
You don't get joins.
That would be very SQL, for sure.
Yeah.
Sujit also asks, so how does Cassandra differ from Mongo with regards to data replication and sharding? And that is a pretty in-depth question as well, but I think, well, of course, with Mongo, with massive slave or
value store.
Well, no, Mongo is being the document database, I'm saying. So, for instance, I think it's probably easier to talk about like schema, for instance. Like, the fact that Cassandra has schema, whereas Mongo is schema-less.
Yeah, it's schema-less, right.
So, yeah, and so what about sharding? I mean, obviously, Cassandra doesn't do sharding, right?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's fully replicating database. So no, there's no sharding with Cassandra.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key differences. Is that it's not trying to do some interesting problems in the back like sharding. You know, that's one of the problems that you can run into with replication is getting into these weird scaling problems. Raymond asks, you showed Java and Python connections. Can you use PHP? Hey, we have a PHP user out there. How about that?
Yeah, there's actually a pretty big list of PHP drivers on the client drivers site as well. Some of them I think are fairly dated too, but yeah, no, there's a large list on the client drivers section of that site. So yeah, you can go have a look at those. You can definitely use PHP.
Aaron asks, is it recommended to use vnodes? And if so, what is a good way to determine the number of tokens to use?
Yes, you can use vnodes, and you should use the default 256 for that.
Right. There's a lot to be said about the default. I mean, you can up it, but it creates a different type of problem where repairs can run longer. But yeah, the default is really good, 256. Nicholas has a fairly long question. Do you have any case studies of a big customer who uses Cassandra on multiple data center setups? Boy, do we have somebody like that who uses it in multi data center? Weren't we just at a meetup where they were talking about this?
Yeah, the Netflix meetup. Netflix are using multi-data center. Right. And active, that's right.
Yeah. So I would say you can just quickly Google for this. It's really, I mean, Netflix is probably the easiest one to talk about, but and they're very vocal about how they do it too. Here's a good procedural question too. So Raymond asks, at the end of CQL, do you need to add the semicolon before hitting the enter button?
Yes, you do need to add a semicolon at the end.
And I always forget.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that.
Yeah, and then it'll just sit there with the cursor looking at you like, well.
Yeah, it was ...
Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm going to go through some few more of these questions, see if I can find this follow-up on that. Oh, there's yet more information, more driver questions. Sujit's asking a lot of questions. Does Cassandra support a driver for Node.js?
Yes, we have drivers for Node.js. Once again, you can check out the client drivers part of Planet Cassandra. It's a big list of drivers on there, many different languages.
So, question, probably more on the operations side here from Val. So you said I see there was Unix-based installation involved. Do you really need Unix or Linux, or do you have a Windows-based install?
Yes, we have Windows as well.
And I think that for the brevity for this, it was done in Linux because that's where the majority of them are.
Yeah, that's why we use Linux example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should add, this is just a little preview of what's coming in 3.0, and what we know now is that there's going to be a lot more Windows support for native Windows support in 3.0 coming. Even though it will run fine in Windows now, there's some things that will be better going forward. So I think that's exciting to see coming. Venkat, I hope that this isn't the Venkat week. No. Can we use the Java driver 2.0 even to Apache Cassandra 2.06? That would be the Java driver for the Apache Cassandra, not Datastax Cassandra. And
yes, you can use it 2.6. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no difference.
No, shouldn't be any difference.
Yeah, I think that the reason it's confusing is really there's no difference between what happens in Datastax Enterprise and Apache Cassandra. They're the exact same versions, it's just a version of Apache Cassandra. So yeah, the Java driver 2.0 with Apache Cassandra as well. So Vicky asks, how do we run real-time analytics in Cassandra? And that's a much bigger question. I'll take that one because I'm actually going to be in New York next week doing that talk. If you do some Googling on my name, you'll see that. But I actually have a talk that I'm doing Apache Cassandra, a time series of Apache Cassandra. So again, much bigger conversation than just a Q&A. But just to have a look for that. I mean, it's out there. Let's see. We have so Jay asks, does Cassandra support functionality similar to a full text search? So a search functionality similar to what Microsoft SQL or SQL Server does?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, we don't have. There's no support for a full text search. You would use Solr for that on top of Cassandra.
That's what Datastax does.
Right.
We have a Solr implementation on top of Cassandra.
Right. That's right.
That's not native to Cassandra itself. Vikas asks, is the seed node like a name node in Hadoop?
No, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably a common misconception of seed node, is that it infers some sort of master or elected leader status.
No, it's no more, doesn't have any more status than any other node. It's just for bootstrapping purposes.
Right.
Mostly when you're making a cluster.
Right. And that, I think that's the important time for that. And there's one more use that a lot of people who don't know about this when later, if it's lost communication with the entire ring, it uses that to try to reestablish communication. But yeah. It has nothing to do with like a leader status or something like that. Name node is of course a single point of failure. And how many single point of failures do we have in Cassandra?
0 single point of failure in Cassandra.
That's right. That's right. So Vicky asks, is there a way to convert an SQL query into SQL?
No. No, there is no way of doing it. I don't believe.
No, well,
No.
because if you have a join in SQL.
Right, and that just wouldn't work, wouldn't translate over.
Right, right. So another question here, can we maintain consistency level of a key space permanently? And I think that's, and then once I set and come out of the session, is it being reverted back to the default consistency level? Now, probably a better question is, when do you set the consistency, or how often can you set the consistency level?
Every write and every read, you would set that. You can set the consistency level.
In the session, I think this is another relational database thing. Is a session isn't like there's no state in the session.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of read between the lines there, being an old DBA. I saw
There's
that.
a lot of relational
Yeah.
stuff popping up here.
Yeah. And that's fine, because I know there's a lot of people that come from that background.
Right, right.
Yeah. But there's no state when you connect to a Cassandra server. It's really in the client, like you showed. It's just that simple with the client. So Bruce asks, is there a more detailed installation guide than the one-page version of it online? How do I know which good hardware configuration is, or how big of a cluster I should start with? Ooh, those are real good questions. I think I will, let's see, how am I going to answer this? So, well, first of all, better documentation. Where would you go for the largest set of documentation?
Go to the Datastax website and the documentation section. There's a, if you're thinking, yeah, you should be able to find a lot about, I think they have recommendations on hardware there too, that documentation.
Yeah, and I would also plug that there's a hardware reference guide or the white paper on the Datastax website as well. I mean, it's geared towards enterprise because this is a common question there, but it will help you. If you're interested, I mean, if you find yourself kind of still with questions, this is where I get to plug the community side. Go ahead and ask your questions. Get on IRC, send email to the mailing list, reach out to somebody in the community, on Twitter, Rebecca on Twitter. If you have specific questions about cluster sizing and things like that, we can help. But I agree, Datastax website with the documentation is a really good start, and just see how far you can get with that. So I think we're at the end of our questions. Let me just make sure if I didn't miss anybody here. And we're right at our 30-minute mark, which is really perfect. So I'm gonna say that this is it. So I think we have a few things to finish up with here, and I'm gonna go back. Let's see. So we have a couple of upcoming webinars. You see the webinars on your page, on your screen?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, good. Got to double check. So June 24th, getting started with fraud detection and Cassandra. Now, this is Nick Weaver. He's a great community member. This should be very interesting for those of you who are interested in some very specific use cases like this. So it's high volume data, really low latency, really cool stuff. So I would suggest if you really like getting started and you want to take it further, tune into this webinar. And then we also have our free online training. Sign up. It's available now, Datastax Academy. So the link is on your page here at elogiclearning.com. Try it out. This is a great way to learn a lot more about Apache Cassandra and learning how to program with Java on that. So give it a try today. And then, of course, I cannot leave without talking about the summit. This summit is going to be a barn burner. We are going to really pull it out. So September 10th and 11th. September 10th is a training day. Plenty of seats left. Get your seat. You will not believe the lineup of people that are going to be there to teach you about Cassandra. So you need to be there both days. This will be a massive event. It's going to be downtown San Francisco. Not quite as big as Oracle World, but we're getting there. And this is where the best people in Cassandra will be gathering. Ask questions, get to know people. I'll be there. Meet me, say hi. This is a place you want to be. If you're serious about Cassandra or want to know more, be there. So that's September 10th and 11th. And because we love you so much, free admission. Where else are you going to find that? So the training is not free, of course, but it's pretty inexpensive. Just book a couple of days. San Francisco in September is beautiful. So we'll see you there. And that's all we have. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next webinar.